Football Manager 2023 is out right now. Yes, it's that time of year, folks. Content is going to be coming thick and fast. Today, we are kicking things off with 5 teams to manage in FM23. I wanted to get a load of variety, hopefully provide you guys with some inspiration for some pretty challenging and rather interesting save games. Let me know who your first save game is going to be with in the FM23 Beta. And, well, I'm not going to keep you waiting. You've got Football Manager to play. I've got 5 teams to show you. Let's get right into things. Still not bought FM23? I've got some good news for you. I've teamed up with SEGA-approved retailer Fanatical to get you an amazing deal on the game that is 29% cheaper than on Steam. Check out the link in the description to find out more info. In these top 5 videos, I always like to throw in a few curveballs, and in at number 5, Defensa y Justicia. I'm going to call them Justice FC, just to keep things simple. This team play in Argentina. This team I managed in FM13 10 years ago. Back then, they were in the second tier of Argentine football, and they'd never been promoted before. That said, over recent years, they have had a monumental climb, and in 2019, they finished second in Argentina, qualified for continental football, and then in 2020, they went and won the Copa Sudamericana, which is a bit like the Europa League, but for South America. So, yeah, that was quite a mental achievement, but unfortunately, with that success, the league form did struggle a little bit. They finished 6th. So with that in mind, you have no continental football to play in your first season, unfortunately. And the media prediction is 15th. This is a weird team. I'm sure some people from Argentina watching this video can perhaps provide a bit more context than me. When I look at their squad, I'm just left a bit bemused. There's loads of players out on loan, and most of your players in on loan, who are your best players, are on loan from other Argentinian teams. And, well, financially, I'll be honest, it's just a bit weird seeing this many players in on loan. The club itself, I believe, are a bit of an underdog. Have always been punching above their weight. To win the Copa Sudamericana was a pretty mad achievement. But off the back of that, they're not set up for any kind of long-term success. This is going to be a rebuild. And if you've never managed in Argentina, especially in recent years, well, allow me to introduce you to their league, where 28 teams play. Yeah, it's weird. So in Argentina, 27 league games in the season, you play each team once. There are lots, apparently, of different continental qualification things here, which does leave me a little bit confused as to why Defensa don't have any kind of continental football. So if you happen to know, answers on a postcard. The facilities at the club leave a lot to be desired. The board are rather content with just mid-table finishes, to be honest. And ultimately, I think this is a fun, slightly different save game if you're looking for something short-term to get your teeth into, maybe managing a league you've never managed in before. Defensa y Justicia, they might be a team for you. Maybe you can learn to say their name a little better than I have in this video. I'm going to work on it for next time I need to mention them. 15 years ago, Nancy finished 4th in Ligue 1. A few years later, relegated to the 3rd tier of France for the first time in their history. They have never been as low as they are this year in Football Manager. They won just 6 games last year in Ligue 2, and as a result, they are playing in the French National League for the year. However, you are predicted to bounce back, and you should bounce back. This is the kind of save game for if you want to start a few tiers down in Football Manager, but want to have a bit of a long-term challenge without starting kind of down in the 10th tier of England or something too absurd. Considering the awful season last year, the club is set up pretty reasonably well. You've got good training and youth facilities. It's not like the club is lumbered with a load of debt. That said, of course, you've not got a whole load of money to spend in year 1. However, what you have got is a hell of a lot of very good young talent. Look at this. Lamine Cisse, 19 years old, superb wide attacking player. To be honest, look at his attributes here. I fancy him as a box-to-box midfielder, although maybe I'm going crazy. Elsewhere, you've got another man who almost definitely could be a box-to-box midfielder. Neil El Ayanawi. I almost certainly said his name wrong. Neil, I'm sorry. But yeah, very good. What I will say is you've got one player on £4,700 a week, a centre-back called Thomas Basilla, who's in on loan. He's injured for 6 to 8 months, and you cannot terminate his loan. So, Yeah, unlucky. Of your players who are actually fit, Gaitan Busman here, probably the best of the bunch on £3,100 a week. And somewhat concerningly, he also might have issues with injuries. I feel like you've got to have very good physios at this team. I will say, despite how dominant your squad is, you only actually have one player in the media dream 11. So whilst the board, the fans, and the press think you should have an easy year one, it might not all be plain sailing. That said, overall, this is a team that definitely has quality, definitely can bounce back. I think France is always a fun hunting ground, especially if you're looking for a bit of a medium to long-term challenge. That long-term aim of dethroning PSG is always nice. And with a team like Nancy, who find themselves lower than they've ever been before, have had some success over the years. 2 French Cup wins, albeit, the last one was almost 50 years ago. Maybe you could try and win them a French Cup in less than 50 years from when they last won it. 2028, 6 years to do it? That might be possible. Coming in at number 3, we have Eintracht Frankfurt, playing in the Bundesliga, a team that, let's be honest, when you look at the table in isolation, they underperformed last year. 11th in the Bundesliga, but there was a pretty good reason for that, and that was, well, they won the Europa League. And with that, despite finishing in the bottom half in Germany, they qualified for the Champions League. That's right, if you're looking to play in the Champions League right away, especially with it now being fully licensed in Football Manager, I think Eintracht Frankfurt could be a very, very fun save game for you. Looking at the preseason preview, they are predicted to finish 9th, but the board have slightly different ideas. They want you to be competitive in the Champions League. They recognise that's going to be a step up, but they expect Europa League qualification via the Bundesliga. And well, to do that, you're going to have to finish in the top 6, which with your current squad is going to be quite a tough challenge. In terms of finances, they're not the most remarkable here. £4 million to spend in transfer budget. There is some excess wage budget, and of course, with you progressing in the Champions League this first season, you will have significantly more money to spend next year, if you last till then. Your key player is going to be the one and only Mario Götze, the German international, a fantastic player, but very, 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 very injury prone. If you want to have success this year, you better hope that he stays fit, but at the same time, can you really afford to build around him? And when it comes to contracts expiring, a couple of key players going to be potentially moving on from you at the end of the year. Kamada is on his way out with his contract expiring at the end of the year. And perhaps the most talented defender in the entire squad in Evan Ndicka also has his contract running out at the end of the year. I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to expect more than the £10,000 a week he's already on. I feel like the Bundesliga is always a fun league to manage in, of course, the long-term aim being to dethrone Bayern Munich. Short-term, though, at Eintracht Frankfurt, securing your job year one, cashing in on the Champions League, trying to improve the current squad, obviously renew some contracts, and maybe also look to improve that youth recruitment, because 2-star youth recruitment, it's just not really good enough, is it? In at number 2, we have Oldham Athletic playing in the Vanarama National League in England. Oldham last year relegated from the Football League, relegated from League 2 after a few years struggling right at the very bottom. And with that, they became the first team in English history who played in the Premier League to get relegated out of the Football League. Of course, it wasn't since 1994 that they played in the Premier League, but they still played there nevertheless. It'd be fair to say that things at Oldham have been better. Financially, on the initial face of things, it kind of looks okay. Yes, there's no transfer budget. Yes, you're spending all your wage budget, but look, £500,000 in the bank can't be that bad, can it? Well, there's quite a lot of debt to deal with here. £4.3 million worth of debt, to be precise. Yeah, not a small amount, and you're going to be paying £135,000 of that a month. For a team at this level, it's not entirely surprising your financial status is that insecure. In terms of aims for your first season, the board want you to reach the Vanarama National Playoffs, and well, because of the format of the National League, I don't think that's going to be too impossible. You just need to finish in the top 7. Of course, in the National League, the first place team go up automatically, 6 teams go into a playoff. And well, when you look at the season preview, Oldham predicted to be down in 8th. Maybe playoffs isn't a surefire thing, and of course, there's Wrexham to deal with, who, let's be honest, with their spending power, with their finances, they're very likely to win the league in the first season. Within your first team, there's actually some quite good talent and some quite good depth. A few good players in on loan, Although they all have contracts expiring in January, and beyond that, the vast majority of the first team aren't going to stick around after the first season. I feel like the financial restrictions in place and the potential for it to get a lot worse before it gets better makes this quite a challenging rebuild. And in case that wasn't bad enough, the supporters, they want you to develop players using the club's youth system. Bad news, your youth recruitment is half a star. You have really awful, quite frankly, youth recruitment. Good luck keeping the fans happy. If you're looking for a challenging save to kick off FM23, one that starts down a fair few leagues in Football Manager, I think Oldham Athletic are a very fun team to manage. Little bit of history around them. Can you take them back to the Premier League? And maybe take them into a new era at the top of English football. Coming in at number 1, we have Anderlecht, a former Belgium giant, a team that is still rather big within Belgium. Back-to-back third-place finishes in the league is good, but by their own standards, it's not really good enough. Of course, former manager Vincent Kompany has left to go to Burnley, and someone has got to pick up his project where he left it. In Belgium over the last few years, Club Brugge have become a real force to be reckoned with in the Champions League this year. They are absolutely stomping their group, and while your aim as Anderlecht manager is going to be to get to be top dog again, and maybe with Bruges, look to build Belgium as a nation. Anderlecht arguably have one of the best young squads in the entire Football Manager this year. When you look at their team, the amount of potential here, I'll be honest, it's absolutely absurd. And the key man, the big prospect, Julian Duranville, looks absolutely phenomenal. At 16 years old, he might just be ready to throw straight into the first team. Elsewhere, you have the likes of Mario Stroyenkens, who is another absolutely sensational talent who can play anywhere in the final third. And to be honest, it's not just your first team where things are stacked, because if you go and look at the development centre, this depth cuts deep. And one man sticks out to me, that is Sadiki here. 18 years old, incredible centre mid, definitely one for the future. I think the biggest challenge as Anderlecht manager is going to be trying to hold on to all of these players and maybe progressing further in Europe to maybe, just maybe, win a Champions League. Of course, Anderlecht, a former giant of European football, they won 2 UEFA Super Cups, a Europa League in the 80s, and, well, a few European Cup winners' cups. But it'd be fair to say, in the age of the modern Champions League, they've not been at the very top of their game. In the season preview, you can see a third-place finish is predicted, and while the board somewhat agree. But year 1, well, they want a top 2 finish, so there is some lofty ambitions right away. It is going to be Bruges, who I think are the big bad, and with an exciting, ridiculous young squad, I feel like there's a load of different directions you could take this save game. You could try and do some kind of building a nation save, a youth academy challenge, because let's be honest, Anderlecht's youth recruitment is absolutely nuts. Or maybe if you're feeling particularly ambitious, you could try and do a save game where you only sign Belgian players to win a Champions League and really elevate the overall level of football in the country to a point where, well, the Jupiler Pro League is the biggest league in Europe. Currently 13th place by reputation, maybe you could take it to number 1. Anyway, folks, that is going to wrap up this video from me for today. As I said in the intro, let me know who you're going to be managing down in the comments for the FM23 Beta. Maybe one of these teams has taken your fancy. Let me know which down in the comments. Besides that, if you've enjoyed this video, if you want more top 5s, drop a like on this one. Remember, if you've not already bought FM23, you can get it using my link down in the description. And until next time, take it easy. It is me, Jack, and I'll see you all next time. I'm out.